Go on.
Colapinto.
Put me. Oh yeah.
Colapinto struggled to find his form yet. Interestingly, Jack Doohan actually has a better average qualifying than those guys.
Yeah. You've got Ollie Behrman down there as well. Wouldn't have expected that from Ollie Behrman. Average grid position of 16th place.
Yeah, feels like he's had a lot of pace at times, doesn't it? But when it's not working, it's not working, and that's been a little bit the story for Haas generally.
It's a recency bias. Recency bias, that one, isn't it, though, with Haas on how it's been going for Behrman, because the start of the year was much more difficult than the qualifyings of late.
So, actually, whilst everyone is mostly in the pit still, let's deep dive what's going on here. And Behrman had 8th at Silverstone, which was outstanding. Now, he didn't even start there because of his penalty, but that was his best qualifying. Yeah. In Japan, race 3, he qualified 10th. Last year, he did 3 Grand Prix qualifyings and was really competitive in all of them. The first one was for Ferrari and then with Haas as well. But in the first 6 races, he was 20th 3 times and 19th once. So he was really, if he wasn't quick, he was struggling a lot, and that's just put his average right down there, whereas Ocon's been a lot more consistent, even if they've both hit Q3 a couple of times. 11th and 12th last time out in qualifying, next to each other in Spa. But yeah, Behrman, he's either got it really, really on song and looks like he's flying, and more recently, as you say, Brundle, then that has been the case. But earlier on in the season, he was scratching his head trying to work out things.
Here's a driver who got a tune out of the car last time out at Spa, and he needed to do so. A strong qualifying performance with a new team principle and a new floor on the car, crucially. Yuki Tsunoda returning to the top 10. A little bit of a correction for him coming through turn number 12.
That's such a factor of that Red Bull. We saw it with Verstappen yesterday. The pitch in that big braking zone down towards turn 12 catches both drivers out with a bit of oversteer on the apex. I really sense with Red Bull a push. I mean, I asked Laurent Mekies directly at the end of the race in Spa whether he was actively trying to give Yuki confidence, and of course he said, no, we're just doing our thing. But when you look at the way they've run the cars yesterday, they've given Yuki the bit of engine mode to get him up the order. You look at the demeanour of Yuki Tsunoda in the pits and paddock, saying things like Laurent's giving me confidence, etc. I really feel like it is an active push to give Yuki confidence on that side of the garage.
Sure looks it, doesn't it?
It does.
The floor change after sprint before qualifying on Saturday last week was quite a rushed thing. We were down in the pit lane before Grand Prix qualifying, and the car was in pieces only half an hour before the green light.
Yeah. Didn't have a rear wing on it, did it? For 20 minutes to go.
Yeah, and they were changing the downforce levels to boot Red Bull, but for Yuki it was fully in pieces. But it was worth the rush and worth trying to get that driver confidence. The second driver that they would love to score some points, and he should have done in Belgium. And you're right, yesterday we spoke about Verstappen struggling, the balance, understeering to snap oversteer. He's not very happy with the overall feeling. But Max was down on engine mode. Yuki wasn't. Yuki was quicker, but he was more sensible on the straights, whereas Verstappen he's got at least half a second there.
Max has got an incredible resilience to that as well. Like, he's able to be in the teens in a free practice session, turn it around and still deliver the next day. Other drivers, and I would always be like this, have to be at the front all weekend long. Otherwise they lose a little bit of confidence. I don't know what it was like for you, JP, but if I fell away in a free practice session, I'd always want the momentum to continue towards qualifying with being in touching distance of the pace all the time.
My best weekends were when I was dialed in, pretty much from the start. I had a good FP1, you build on it, and then by the time you turn up at this point, you know you're on soft tyres with Verstappen, you know where you're braking, and you're just trying to find small gains lap on lap, so nothing is going to surprise you. You don't want to be turning the car upside down, looking for performance right now. But, you know, Max he's a four-time world champion, so he has the skill set, if the car's there, to deliver, and we've seen that also time and time again. Bad Fridays become pole-sitting Saturdays.
Yeah, because he's got the calmness to jump back in the car and just do Max. whatever the car is, and then come in and tell them what they want to change. But it seems like, you know, from Yuki's side of the garage, perhaps the magic numbers are getting that calmness into him by continuously keeping him close to the pace and never allowing that sort of panicky sense that he's falling away from it to develop. We talk a lot about the inputs of the drivers being affected by how they're feeling in the car. I know Laura, she mentioned to me last weekend, and it's something I never considered, happiness watts in cycling from drivers that just have a bit of a calmer pedal stroke because they're feeling happy themselves. It's kind of the same, isn't it? When you're in a race car, everything just settles slightly.
Yeah, I mean, it's happiness, confidence as well. They're sort of hand in hand, aren't they? When you've got the resume of Verstappen, he can do what he likes. You know, he's got the talent to back it up, and the car's there, it's there. If it's not there, he knows he's good enough. It's just about getting the car back there. He hits the top spot now, but we're in an early stage of FP3, and it's not that competitive.
Let's hear from his teammate now. This is Yuki Tsunoda.
Massive upset, I guess, from instability at turn 11.
That's the high speed where we've just seen Max come through there, turn 11. We're talking about confidence.
It's all that happiness, confidence playing out.
Yeah, exactly. So a couple of things. I used to have, when I first hit the grid in 2016, you're used
burst
to
onto the scene.
I really did burst onto the scene with one decent race, and then but you know, in Melbourne, my first race, I finished 11th. It was pretty solid for the car we had, but we had no Friday practice. It was a washout. So I turned up Saturday, and it was like doing a Formula 2 race. One practice, and then you go, and it was fine. Then went to the next race. It was Bahrain. Track I knew much better. And you sort of get a bit complacent with practice, so I did at the time. And I think, I've got loads of practice now. Let's dial in, let's relax into the weekend. But you don't have time for it. As we talk about, you need to hit the ground running. These guys are so good that if you're off the ball for a few laps, you can get left behind. You have to be starting so sharp and then putting the next little bits together, and you don't want to be left behind. The other thing is, I've had weekends where I started really well. And I was up, and maybe I was up on Hulkenberg at some point, and I was thinking, hey, this is going to be it for me. But the great drivers can just turn it on, and equally, you're thinking you're getting the confidence, you're good, right, we're into Saturday, here we go. All right, I'm right there with Nico Hulkenberg, Kevin Magnussen, whoever it is, and then one lap, poof, they go and do it, and you're like, oh my God, they found it now, that's a shame.
It's fascinating hearing the build-up and how you approach a weekend. Key thing for Red Bull yesterday was that their technical director was saying is the car not behaving as expected. Simple as that. Yuki Tsunoda said it was a good step forward from FP1 to FP2. It wasn't actually the balance, it was just a total lack of grip affecting both ends of the car.
And that first lap is better for Verstappen. Tsunoda on the mediums, but Verstappen in the ballpark between the two Ferraris, away from George Russell, who's currently quickest. Let's have a look at Piastri. The McLarens are both on a first flying lap here on the softs.
Piastri's going to take it through 9 and through 10, leaning on that curve a little bit through there.
It's quite low grip, doesn't it, generally? Not super glued.
Just conclude the lap with the championship leader. And then we're going to enjoy some trackside viewpoints from James Hinchcliffe, 6-time IndyCar winner, and man standing at turn number 1, which is where Oscar Piastri is going to fire the car across the line. And we'll hand it off to you, Hinch.
Yeah, guys, finally made it down to turn 1. This is one of the ones we really wanted to come to all weekend long to really get a sense of how well these cars are doing on the brakes down here into the biggest brake zone on the track. And what makes this brake zone a little bit more challenging is it's actually surprisingly downhill. Kind of once you cross the finish line, the track really does pitch downhill, which just makes the braking that little bit less efficient. You've got gravity working against you, inertia not on your side as you try to pick that perfect braking spot. And because of the layout of this corner, the geometry of this corner, this is really all about longitudinal grip. How quick can you slow this car down? Yes, minimum speed's important, but then it's really also about how quickly and fully you can get to the throttle for that exit run, that second DRS zone down to turn 2. It's interesting to see the teammate comparisons here as well. This is where Lando Norris was finding a good chunk of that gap he had over Oscar Piastri. Just later on the brakes, could get to that minimum speed, carrying a little bit more entry. Same with actually Lewis Hamilton. He was quite a bit quicker than Charles Leclerc in this section as well. But that's the best part about data. All those drivers will have had the chance to go back overnight, take a look at where the teammates were better. And look, there's always a little bit of pride, isn't there, in being the latest of the late breakers in the big break zones on a racetrack. You want to know that you can get the job done, but at the same time, with such an important exit here, it's so easy to overdo it. Remember in FP1, we saw plenty of lockups into turn 1 here. I think as these guys really start to push on these soft tires, preparing for qualifying, we're going to see a few more incidents. And then again, once we get to qualifying, the pressure's on. Finding that exact spot in these, difficult approach corners is going to be so important. So everyone kind of just getting their first run out of the way. We're going to stay down in this general area to see how much action we get, how many lockups we see as people really start to push later into this session.
Hinch, just a quick question for you. You've been at multiple corners now across the weekend so far. Who's your unexpected standout from who you've seen trackside? Who's outperforming where you thought they would be at the start of the weekend?
Well, look, honestly, it kind of goes to when you asked this question when I was standing down at the 6-7 chicane. I thought the Aston Martins looked surprisingly good, having not seen the timing charts for a while, and they had jumped up. They continued that pace into FP2, cars surprisingly quick. So again, for a team that's been kind of hot and cold this year, sitting trackside a few different corners, they've been looking pretty strong.
We'll see if they can carry it forward. Thank you very much, Mr. Hinchcliffe, watching for us at turn number 1. And whilst we were watching that trackside view, Max Verstappen went faster than Oscar Piastri by 0.03 of a second.
Traditionally Bottas, wasn't it? Hinch's side of the track pick. Loved several weekends in a row last year. Loved the way that Bottas looked in the past. Loved the way that Bottas looked from the side of the racetrack. It annoyed me, that data.
I think I said it annoyed you that it was always Bottas.
I know it was Bottas. Honestly, such a nice guy. Honestly, share the love around.
No, I was going to change the subject to the data between Piastri and Norris yesterday, where Norris did exactly what you've just seen Lewis Hamilton do there. Was super late on the brakes, arced the car in, and actually missed the apex entirely, and still took half a tenth out of his teammate yesterday. The braking zone down there is so important, and there's nowhere to go after it down towards turn 3. So it always seems like it's he who is latest on the brake and still representatively makes the corner. It seems to take time.
It can be the case, can't it, sometimes? You look at a lap and you're thinking, oh, it's a little bit wide there. But actually the speed they're barreling in, they are at least 10 out of 10 on the limit. In fact, they're probably slightly over that. Whereas sometimes you get laps that, I don't know, someone like Valtteri Bottas would typically put in, that look really neat and tidy, and they look from the outside like they're standout laps, but maybe they're just 9.5 out of 10 on the limit because they have neatly joined the dots rather than absolutely be on or over the limit.
It's the limitation of where you can observe race cars, realistically, isn't it? Because you can't feel under your fingertips what the exact level of grip is. So it can look so neat and tidy. And not
at the exact moment. At the exact moment you say neat and tidy, Charles Leclerc rearranges the gravel trap all on to the racetrack, having set purple sector 1 and purple sector 2, and managed to avoid anything. But that's going to have left a mess there. Still the fastest time for him. He dropped a huge amount of time as he dipped a couple of wheels in the gravel at turn 12.
A 15.6 is what we're shooting for. It was the best time so far this weekend. It was a 16.0 in FP1 that Norris set, 15.6 in FP2. The track evolution hasn't been massive, and right now it's actually lower than it was on Friday, not unexpectedly. And that moment, it would have cost Leclerc a little bit, but once again, there's not huge runs out of these corners. So you lose maybe a tenth coming up to the next corner, running through the gravel, having a slide, but you don't carry that loss all the way down a long straight.
Here's Esteban Ocon, making his way through the traffic.
So no dancing,
Yeah, what was he doing, really?
Not sure.
I thought I blocked him, I didn't. It's a joke.
so in sync, meaning they're pushing and doing slow laps at the same time there. But that didn't seem to be the case in the end there. So maybe Tsunoda wanting a little bit of subtle retribution for a bit of impeding that we didn't see there on from Esteban Ocon and not jumping out of the way too quickly for the Haas car.
Norris improves to third position as Behrman struggles to scrub off.
Tsunoda and Singh. Tsunoda and Singh.
Yeah, what was he doing, really?
Not sure.
I thought I blocked him. I didn't. It's a joke.
Race engineer. This is what it looked like on board down to turn 1.
I had the rear locking.
Rear locking, end of braking, and that is exactly what it does then. Throws you into an oversteer that Behrman catches, but will lose the lap there. Same issue as Hamilton had for a spin.
I had the rear locking.
To opposite lock your way back onto the track, but keep it on the track, and that's what happened there for Behrman. The brake balance can change as well with brake by wire. You can have the brake pressure, the brake bias towards the front at the peak pressure, but then as you release the brakes, it's moving rearwards to avoid front locking at the end. The very, very clever systems on the car, but maybe Behrman they're just finding the limit of that.
Driver coming off the back of a couple of points scored in the sprint race when he was 7th in Spa. It's his first ever sprint points, and more points on the board having not scored in a Grand Prix since earlier in the season back in Bahrain, so he needed that result, and Haas trying to extract more performance this weekend. Another driver who's targeted an improvement in qualifying paces, Liam Lawson. He's in your picture main screen. Lewis Hamilton, left-hand side of your screen a second to go, has improved up to second position, crucially ahead of Charles Leclerc. Lewis Hamilton with an unbelievable record around the circuit and includes 9 Grand Prix poles.
It's a very good lap, isn't it, from Gabriel Bortoleto, with the top 8 having had a go on a new set of soft tyres. Max Verstappen's carried on pounding round on them. Bortoleto 6th at the moment, 3/10 off the pace, which strikes me as a remarkably good lap in the company.
Let me ask you, given my company right now, did you guys expect him to be this good, having commentated on Formula 2 last year?
Not on one lap pace, no. I'll hold my hands up and admit that I thought he was going to struggle. Really clever racer last year. Just consistency, attacking when he needed to. I think attacking when he needed to is the key phrase there. He was aggressive when the race required. He was happy to take a 5th place if the weekend wasn't quite there. It was just an exemplary example of championship building, and it took him to the title. It
was a how-to on doing Formula 2, wasn't it? The same way as we've seen so many drivers, Oscar Piastri-esque in the way that he went about it. I honestly didn't think he'd have the car at any point this year to really demonstrate what he's been able to demonstrate through this phase of the year.
But aside from the car, the fact that he is ahead of Hülkenberg
in the head-to-head as well.
In the head-to-head, you can only measure a driver. Well, the main metric is comparison to their teammate. We've all been praising Hülkenberg for such a long time, but I don't think anyone saw this. Sounds like you guys didn't either.
Fernando Alonso pointing out as well that there was no extra testing for him. It's a phenomenon that's crept in Formula 3 and Formula 2 in recent times. Take an old car, find a different circuit, and run in similar machinery to get your reps up, essentially, with running cars at that speed. Fernando Alonso, part of Bortoletto's management team, saying he just had the on-track sessions when claiming the F3 and F2 titles.
So, partly we're surprised, I think, because of Hülkenberg's standard that he's shown over all these years. Let's watch Gasly with a bit of traffic through the final corner. That's what traffic will do there. Bit of dirty air for Gasly following Norris, who's opening a lap just in front of him. so Pierre missing a big advantage. Partly it's because Hulkenberg we all hold in very high regard. But even Helmut Marko, do you remember in Melbourne, said he was a B-tier driver? Mugged him right off at the start of the season.
Which is unlike Helmut to have a punchy opinion.
Yeah, about someone else's driver, just absolutely spraying it on the first race of the season. But when you look at the numbers from last year that he did, he won Formula 2 in his rookie year. That's exceptional to do that in any stage of Formula 2, the feeder series, to go and beat a top level of competition, all gasping for their chance to get into Formula 1 is impressive. And he beat his teammate by 3 times the points, Kush Maini, in Victor Racing. He was pretty good. And he's showing it now, which is great to see.
Yeah, it's lovely that key phrase that Brundle said as well. He's had the car to show it. It's ultra competitive Formula 1 in this era, and Sauber, it just shows timing, absolutely everything. Last year wouldn't have been able to display this type of performance, but he's right in the mix, and a great time there leaves him in 6th position. Let's go over the line with Lando Norris, and improves the time to 3rd position, 1:16.1. Let's send it to the pit lane now with Ruth Busker.
Yeah, so I'm down here in the pit lane. It's currently 27 degrees air, 49 degrees track, and Jodie here is filling this up with dry ice. Now, why is she doing that? Because it is not just me and the drivers that get a little bit warm at Budapest. It's actually the Formula 1 cars. It's one of the biggest challenges of the year for cooling, specifically the brakes and the flow. Now, these Formula 1 cars are designed to be at optimum temperature when they're out on track. So the second they come in the pit lane, everything gets really hot. It's a bit like when you finish a run, you start getting warm. Now, to compensate from that, the second that you'll see them putting these fans in, they're actually filled with dry ice to cool down those brakes, cool down their air duct, cool down the entire system as quickly as possible. But after that, it becomes a little bit of an engineering game. So up here, we have a bung. This is not just any bung, ladies and gentlemen. This bung has been specifically chosen for the temperature that after we've cooled everything down, we want the whole car to stay at. Formula 1 cars can't run straight from cold. It's why we have lots of noisy fire-ups at the start of the session. And it's a big game of making sure it's just the right temperature before it goes out. Now, why is there a neon label on this? Because Monaco 2010, a mechanic accidentally left a bung in Jenson Button's Formula 1 car, and he had to stop because the whole thing was getting very hot. Because, of course, if you leave a bung in and it doesn't get any airflow when you're out on track, it's a little bit too hot. But yes, Budapest, one of the biggest challenge for your brakes, and your aero engineers are going to try and optimize the cooling to 1 or 2 degrees. That will give you 3 or 4 hundredths round here. They're making minute decisions on what they want to do in terms of setup. One of the unsung heroes of Formula 1, your aero engineer and your power unit engineers, but it can actually make all the difference when it comes to positions on a track like this.
Wonderful behind the scenes. Thank you very much, Ruth, for that. Down at Aston Martin. Heavy work for the teams. And Fernando Alonso is in our picture now. The driver who scored his first Grand Prix victory back in 2003 around this circuit. 44 years young, still fighting. He said he was fine after the muscle issue kept him out of FP1. Had no complaints after FP2, and will be hoping to do what he did for a run of races earlier in the season and post it in the top 10 when it comes to qualifying. He has always been able to make the difference around the circuit. It's always been a Fernando special type event.
Yeah, he's still been driving at such a high level this year as well. He has the 10th best qualifying grid position this year, so he has been able to get it through to Q3, as we saw in the graphic earlier on, multiple times. And it wouldn't surprise me if he manages to do it again. Both Aston Martins are looking good at this point. Let's see Alonso across the line. Medium tyres up into the top 10. Another very solid lap. And when they switch to the soft, there should be around 4/10 of time, which will put him very much in the front fray again.
So Piastri ahead of Hamilton, Norris ahead of Charles Leclerc. Gaps far smaller than they were yesterday. Check out that for low-speed corners, where Gabriel Bortoleto is 5th. And the corners highlighted for you on the track map on the left-hand side. And you would expect that for the Ferrari team. They've always traditionally been good when it comes to mechanical grip and low-speed corners. Bortoleto getting a great lap in there. And the question then becomes, can you deliver it under the pressure of the qualifying hour coming your way in a couple of hours' time?
We haven't really covered it, and I will cover it very shortly. But let's have a look at Lando Norris, who was looking pretty relaxed in the garage as the cameras come right up to him.
Pretty relaxed on the track there. See what it looked like on board with Isaac Hadjar.
Trying to find a bit of space.
Man, I don't know what's wrong with the traffic, but it's too bad. Like, Norris doesn't know how to let by someone.
Hadjar not happy with how they're fighting on the laps in between the important ones.
So I'm assuming that was from earlier, that Lando had blocked Isaac there at some point earlier on the lap, and then Hadjar backed off and Norris went back around him. Yeah, Norris looking very relaxed, and they are all getting ready for one more flying lap. But we haven't covered off Lewis Hamilton finding some pace here.
Yeah, ahead.
Second quickest.
Ahead.
Didn't look all that comfortable yesterday. Leclerc looked...
Man, I don't know what's wrong with the traffic, but it's too bad. Like, Norris doesn't know how to let by someone.
Remember, he was in the mix. He was in the mix of pole position at Silverstone, where he's got a very, very similar record in terms of ratcheting up the pole positions and victories. Just faded away in that third and final sector. That vastly updated Ferrari with the new suspension brought to the last Grand Prix. But the last Grand Prix was a sprint, so it was a little bit of a hurried setup, and Hamilton had a really tough Friday and Saturday before eventually climbing 11 places in mixed conditions for the Grand Prix. We're focusing on Ollie Bearman once again. 18 minutes of final practice to go. Piastri, Hamilton, Norris, Leclerc, Verstappen, Portoletto, Mercedes pair of Russell, ahead of Antonelli. Gone back a year there, actually. Alonso and Sainz completing the top 10 as it stands.
Antonelli once again running with Russell as well, on the back of his trickiest weekend so far in Formula 1 in Belgium. Right with Russell. Slightly behind, a couple of tenths down, but much closer to the pace. As the year's gone on, he's fallen away on pace, which is obviously the opposite of what you'd expect from a rookie. Normally, first few races, you're finding your feet, the odd flash in the pan performance, but generally the trend will start to come back towards you. But Kimi's not had it easy. He's been feeling a little bit of pressure, but so far this weekend, on the back of a good Formula 2 result here last year, he's driving much better. So up in the top 8, Mercedes still not looking like they can challenge for pole position. But if Antonelli can get close to Russell, that'll be, I think that'll be a happy Toto Wolff, at least on that side of the garage.
Yeah, Toto Wolff has got a couple of drivers to talk terms and conditions with in the coming weeks. Taking the approach of waiting until the summer break. Let's go back on board with Alexander Albon, who's had a couple of hairy moments in this session already. Using all of the track and a bit more as he tries to extract the performance from that Williams. He said at the start of the weekend that he expected this to be their second worst track of the year when it comes to performance.
It's been at the walls already a little bit today. Scraping some gravel as well. Been all over the place on this first run. Medium tyres for both Williams. Sainz up in 10th, Albon 19th, and fighting it a lot more. New boots, Oscar Piastri. He's gone early, 17 minutes to go, but he's going to get a clean lap in. Let's see him down towards turn 1.
Lewis Hamilton is further up the road from him as well. So Hamilton is going to show us his qualifying pace in a few moments' time. We're focusing on the championship leader. Piastri with the most wins ever for an Australian driver in a single season with 6. He scored that last weekend in Belgium after that brave trail up the hill in Lando Norris's slipstream in the wet. Made the move early on in the first racing lap they were able to run, and unsurprisingly he's got the fastest first sector of anyone so far.
So they clean the track up, then you get the hit of grip, and he's all over the concrete coming out of turn 7, and suddenly the car comes alive. So this will be the best lap of the weekend if he can string the second half together with the McLaren dancing on the limit. Much better from Piastri. 0.77. One final sector to go, 3 corners, sliding a little bit now coming through turn 12. The McLaren was running out of tyres, rear tyres a little bit at the end of both Piastri and Norris's qualifying sims yesterday. Piastri hurls it into the final corner but keeps the steering very, very consistent on entry. He's not having to correct that now, and there we go, boom, full second.
It looked great, it was great. It's faster than last year's pole position time, which was a 1:15.2 for Lando Norris. It's a 1:14.9 for Oscar Piastri. Everyone has to respond to that.
Checking in with Mercedes over the radio to see what's going on in what's been a more difficult weekend for them so far. 2 main insights. Firstly, they are referencing all of their evaluation of performance against Ferrari. They don't even discuss McLaren at this stage of the session. That's who they're racing against. Secondly, they're asking both drivers to run in and out of the DRS to give them a sense of tyre load, I suspect, under the DRS, and keep pushing the car through the first sector after their push laps. We've got track temperature now up at 45 degrees, so it could be a tricky time for Mercedes, who've traditionally struggled with that.
Lewis Hamilton at the end of the second sector, 0.4 of a second away from Oscar Piastri. Lando Norris, fastest in FP1 and FP2, is trying to beat his time in FP3.
Breaking traction on the exit of turn 1 though, that's probably cost him that bit of time in the first sector. Hamilton's not as close on this set of tyres, with McLaren finding huge gains and Hamilton not even putting a personal best on the board at the end of the lap. So it's McLaren v McLaren in FP3 for the moment, and Norris now sweeping through the middle sector. Lovely sequence of corners, medium speed, building to high speed now as he'll go flat out through 10 and just feather the throttle now through turn 11. Looking very calm, still quick, not quite as quick as Piastri in either the first or second sector though.
Such an animated lap from Oscar Piastri. The extremity of the curves, there's so many corners. Norris far tidier at this stage of the weekend, nowhere near that wide turn-in that he had yesterday into the final corner of the racetrack. He goes over the grid hatchings and he finds a lot in that final sector. 300ths back, the margin between these two. Top 2 in the World Championship, 300ths of a second.
So we had the small oversteer on the exit of turn 1, but apart from that, it looked slightly less animated through the middle sector, which maybe meant he had more rear tyres for the final sector, where you've got just 3 bursts of traction and long corners. So that was 1/10 back towards Lando. Once again, we've got a nice contest between the McLarens, not much separating them.
Stroll has gone into 4th. Hulkenberg moves up to P5. We're riding on board with Max Verstappen. We're expecting a much more compliant car to what he had yesterday, where they were really struggling for grip.
Still dialed in the higher speed there at 11. Let's see what it's like in the low. It's not so good. Losing the rear on the initial turn in for turn 12. So we know there was an understeer problem yesterday. Tsunoda got on the radio earlier on and said, now I've got oversteer, and it looks similar for Verstappen, who's having to just control the rear end sliding round on him in all of those final few corners, and he loses time with that. No personal best in the final sector either for Max.
Time ebbing away in turn 12. So many here supporting the 4-time world champion, not able to improve on that lap. Time to show you the pit wall, including the return of GP. There's a couple of races in the last 3.
Efficiency a lot different.
Yeah, we're looking into Cookie's looking into it.
Oh, of course, it's +2 now.
2, going past.
It's all +2 now from the long run.
Okay, yeah, reset, bias, offset, reset, bias, offset.
Can we check, please, this before session start, honestly? Just wake up.
The hurry up from Yuki Tsunoda to his team after he was in the wrong setting for the lap where he was pushing George Russell, snaking all over the road as he applied the power coming out of 13. This is his teammate coming out of the same corner.
There was an outlap for Tsunoda there, having that.
Efficiency a lot different.
Yeah, we're looking into Cookie's looking into it.
Oh, of course, it's +2 now.
2, going past.
It's all +2 now from the long run.
Okay, yeah, reset, bias, offset, reset, bias, offset.
Can we check, please, this before session start, honestly? Just wake up.
At the McLaren battle, he had a nice view of Piastri taking the race lead at the start.
You try to fix the rear and then pull out in front the steer.
Stops, a lot of it going right. Norris didn't quite have the perfect pit stop at Spa, but it still wasn't too bad. I think it cost about 7/10.
Yeah, not ideal, but they managed to fix all the wheels on safely in the end, getting back out there.
Going for another fast lap here is Lando.
Yeah, no improvement. Sector 1 for Lando Norris.
He's giving it quite a lot over the curbs in the chicane, though, the low speed. Building the speed now towards turn 11. His final sector is already very good. And yeah, it's just going away now in the middle sector as well. Those rear tyres, they're struggling already on one lap to keep them in shape for this final sector. So I imagine the second lap they'll be going away that little bit more.
Lando Norris, the driver who was on pole position here last year, then got the slower start. Piastri got through, and then they played it ultra cautious when it came to the strategy. But the Norris was out front. Took a long time in conversation with that man, Will Joseph, to swap positions, and Piastri went through to take his maiden Grand Prix win. They are locked on 8 apiece 1 year later. Piastri and Norris, and coincidentally, same career total as Charles Leclerc. The top 3 in your classification all have 8 Grand Prix victories. Bortoleto going again, driving with strong confidence and driving with another point-scoring finish after the last Grand Prix. Turn 12, this is where the gravel has been kicked up many a time, but not this time. Another driver just pushing on again, extracting information for the team, if not outright performance.
It's very much a one-lap tyre, this soft, the C5, second softest in the range. And yeah, has actually managed to put a final sector in, but he's still 6/10 away from his overall best that he's done. 9th and 10th, though, for Sauber is a much better day so far for the team.
Given their run over the last couple of years, they will take that all the way through. Just looking for improvements next year. Coming Audi.
Yeah, they found them, haven't they, really? It's been a much better year. Remember, it took them to Vegas to get points last year. I mean, it was so bad for the team. The pit stops were taking best part of a race at the start of the season to get anything changed. I mean, the team were in, I don't want to say disarray, but
you were thinking disarray, though.
Oh, they were a modern-day shambles.
That's the word
at the start of last year.
Head.
You hate to be too harsh, but a team that's barely getting points all season, you don't want to see in this competitive era of Formula One. And they've made strides already. It's been good to see with Bortoleto and Hulkenberg. Complete change of lineup. Sometimes you get a fresh impetus from that as well. Experienced Formula 2 champ. Everyone gets motivated by new drivers coming through the factory in the winter, really trying to learn and put their new efforts, new ideas to the team as well, especially in the case of Hulkenberg, who's got the experience, and it all helps. Lawson jumped to 13th, and we had Pierre Gasly jump up as well just a moment ago. Not that high, though.
Yeah, still behind Colapinto, who's in 15th position, just to finish the point on Sauber. 5 races in a row they've now scored points, so a complete sea change for them. Gabriel Bortoleto has scored in 2 of the last 3 Grand Prix after his 9th position last time out. In Belgium, 2nd points finish in Formula 1 as a result. Scored as well in Austria. Another really strong weekend for him.
For the real connoisseurs out there, the battles in the Constructors' Championship further down are really fascinating. Williams have done a good job, 70 points, more on the board in the Belgian Grand Prix weekend. Albon with a great race, Sainz with a good sprint. Maybe have pulled clear now enough, but there's a long way to go. It wouldn't shock me if they were still caught, if they took their eye off the ball. But then Sauber scoring, Racing Bull scoring, Lawson finding some form as well. We know Hajar's always been very solid and a menace for the points. Aston Martin have got Fernando Alonso. Anything is possible when you got him at the wheel. We've spoken enough about Haas, who had double points in the sprint last time out. And then Alpine, last, 15 points away from anyone else. But for a team that's last in the constructors to have 20 points at half distance in the season, shows how competitive the whole field is. And Gasly's doing a very solid job. Also points in the last 2 Grand Prix. Could have had a point or 2 in the sprint as well, but had a water leak and was pushed off the grid. It's a nice era for Formula 1.
Yeah, tough moment for Gasly, that, especially when point scoring finishes few and far between. He's managed 4 in Grand Prix so far this year. But you're absolutely right about the competitiveness, Jody, because 20 points for last place. Sometimes you see last place without any points on the board at all in the history of Formula 1. No one on the grid would be surprised if they found their way to the top 10, and it's brilliant that that's the case. I'm speaking about Dr. Helmut Marko's spicy opinions earlier on in the broadcast. There he is, watching on in the Red Bull garage, still part of that program, as he has been since the team's inception in 2005. A long-time friend of the founder, Mateschitz, and continuing all the way through. He's the reason, if you're one of our newer fans, that they have 2 teams in Formula 1. The junior program is all his idea. Why pay big bucks if you can basically get an option on top talent earlier on? And he went and proved it by signing Max Verstappen as a teenager, which raised eyebrows. Going back through that history a couple of weeks ago, and they put out a press release going, we've signed Max Verstappen to the junior program. And then 1 week later, they were like, by the way, that's going to be in Formula 1 next year.
It was such a rush, wasn't it? Such a hurried promotion, but they saw the talent very, very early on. 1 year in cars before racing in Formula 1. Amazing rise for Max, and a good job from Red Bull to get him. And part of the reason that Mercedes and Toto Wolff have jumped so quickly, putting Kimi Antonelli in the car now, seeing the Verstappen promotion and what has happened since. What's 10 years ago now?
Yeah, long time. Max Verstappen signing up for another year, or confirming that he's going to continue, I think is a fair sentence. Charles Leclerc kicking a bit of dust up on the exit of turn 13. We've seen plenty of drivers struggling through the exit of turn 13. We're into the final minutes, absolutely flown by. I think it's the deep dive you and Brundle did into driving and progressing your weekend earlier on. It's great to hear that. It's been wonderful to have Hinch's trackside hits and Ruth's insight from the pit lane. We have, considering the amount of on-track passes around this place, not always at the higher end. It's one of the hardest circuits of the year to overtake, and the number of on-track passes is below the seasonal average when you look at it across the last 10 years. So it's a high-pressure quali session coming your way in 2 hours' time.
But it's a nice track because you can pass, you have to work for it. And you have, we've seen many times the rear tyres going away. This will be the latest illustration that we saw from Leclerc. Yeah, finding the agile bit of Astro, but not spinning the car fully, just lighting up the rear axle. Just getting a bit of rubber down now on the outside there at turn 13. But yeah, you do just spike the tyre temperatures often in the race. These softs are pretty fragile. We're looking like it'll probably be more medium and hard through the Grand Prix, but even so, if you start losing the tyres, it becomes really difficult to defend. Possible because of the nature of the circuit, but difficult. And that is my hope for a good race tomorrow.
Which it has been in recent times. Antonelli will be pleased with the position that he finds himself in, and anytime you're ahead of George Russell over 1 lap, that's encouraging stuff for the man who had a really classy Formula 2 feature race win here last year, making his way past, had the right strategy, had the track position, and then made the moves really cleanly, really efficiently, and left them all behind to take a really strong victory in the main points-paying race. 2 races per weekend for Formula 2, and you can see the first of them on F1 TV coming up after this.
What a session.
So sometimes that's in the good sense, but that did not sound positive from Yuki Tsunoda. Not happy with the execution of the final hour of practice. Something that multiple teams were talking about yesterday. Haas were really unhappy with their FP2 and the run plan, car positioning, a few sloppy errors out there. Today it's Red Bull and Yuki Tsunoda.
Yeah, it's a good job Brundle's left the commentary box to talk about the confidence and the happiness that Yuki was exuding with Lauren Mechis at the team. It seems like it's come crashing down in this session. Was better for him, but Red Bull's still looking at seeing no cars in the top 10 for them.
Talking cars in the top 10 though, Aston Martin's still there, JP.
Look, they might stay there for qualifying. I'll believe it, particularly for Lance, who struggled a bit in qualifying. We've seen a few good practices. Qualifying is another story. Maybe this is their weekend. Fernando's been great around this circuit in the past. It was his first win. I would never...
What a session.
Lock out the second row behind the McLaren.
If Fernando has a Fernando special, it could be clip it up for the pre-race show.
Remember his pole here in 2009 in the lousy Renault?
Ridiculous. Just absolutely outrageous. A car that shouldn't have been on pole position. Brilliant lap from him. And they didn't know, did they? That clip was doing the rounds at the start of the weekend. Timing went down. Having to ask each other what they did.
Yeah. Well, such a funny moment at the pass, but an amazing lap behind it all. And you had Fernando 16 years ago hustling around trying to find out from the drivers, what lap did you do? Hang on, what lap did you do? I'm still at the top, let's go. And he was pole position.
I think he knew, didn't he? Because he was the one desperately asking everyone. Should we take you through the top three? It's the same top three as the entire weekend so far. It's Oscar Piastri, Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc again. Piastri fastest this time by 0.03 of a second. First time he's topped the session all weekend long. Lando Norris second, Charles Leclerc in third. Lewis Hamilton completing the Ferrari and McLaren sequence. Then it's Kimi Antonelli with a strong fifth place ahead of Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll in the Aston Martins. George Russell had a lot of animated moments behind the wheel. He's eighth. Gabriel Bortoleto ahead of his teammate again. It's Bortoleto in ninth, Hulkenberg in 10th. Then it's Behrman, Verstappen, Colapinto, Lawson, Sainz and Albon. And at the back, with work to do, Esteban Ocon, Pierre Gasly, Yuki Tsunoda, who was very frustrated with the session, and Isaac Hadjar, who had a spin when doing his qualifying sim. Well, my thanks to Hinch, to Alex Brundle, to Jolyon Palmer, and to you for joining us across the final hour of practice. Let's get some more analysis now down in the paddock with Nikki.
Thank you very much, guys. I am down here at the back of the Mercedes garage, and I'm delighted to say that we are joined by the one and only, the reserve driver at Mercedes. It is, of course, Valtteri Bottas. Welcome. How are you doing?
Thank you. Doing great.
You've been very busy. Are you going for like
extremely
marketing
busy.
Officer role at the moment? Because the marketing campaigns are great. We're loving it.
Gotta do something, you know. No, I mean, yeah, we keep certain things fun. Obviously, certain things serious, but yeah, gotta